Hey guys, and welcome back to another episode of Building Repertoires using Chessable. In this series, I take brand new openings that I've never played before, and I'm learning them for the first time ever using Chessable courses specific to each one. So I'm working through the courses, and after you see me play these openings in my blitz games during the series, I'll cross-reference them with the Chessable course to make sure I'm playing the right way and making sure I'm learning and improving for next time. So I hope you guys really enjoy the series, and I hope it gives you an insight into how to study and improve at chess. So we're going for d4, knight c3. d6 at this point, there isn't really... knight c3 is a fine move. I'm going to start with e4, though. When you see this opening, I think that taking the center makes the most sense. Okay, knight here. Probably knight c3 or queen e2 make the most sense. Personally, I'm going to start with queen e2. It's all about making sure that the center is secured. Okay, I'm going to go knight f3. I could put the knight here, but I feel like that's kind of what my opponent wants. We'll play this move, knight here, and we should get a trade of knights at this point, which is kind of beneficial for us. Yeah, it helps us develop. This move threatens to trap our bishop, so we are going to not only support the center, but give our bishop a square. So still, he's making moves that make sense. I'm going to castle. He goes h6. Yeah, he wants to control this square. He might also be thinking of onto g5. I don't know. I'm going to play the move a3. Can be really useful to control that square. Now he makes the decision to go c4. So now I know that his plan is something like that. And for me, I basically want to switch to the other side of the board. Is this bishop important? Maybe we can leave that knight stranded on b3. Not sure how relevant that is. Because, knight b3, technically we have, some queen b5, but I don't even think that's... I'm going to try to strand the knight here. I just think the knight's not doing anything. Let's leave it there. Play bishop f4, h4, h5. Can almost just do it anyway. It's close, but I don't think it works. Yeah, we need to move this knight. It's necessary. So let's go g3. Moves like king g2, h4. These moves are going to be my friends. I think we might just start with h4. I can move the bishop. Do I want to encourage the move g5? That's my question. And honestly, I don't think so. So I'm going to leave it there. You can take it if you want. It doesn't look like the best piece you've ever seen, so figured he might not capture it. Let's go h5. Okay, I need to move this knight anyway to play f4. He's playing it really well, but I will eventually get my counterplay over there. I will, I promise you. It will happen. Bishop h7 on rook g8, you have to be careful of. Bishop h6 on rook g8, so usually this move forces a move like bishop f8. I know it looks tempting to take this, but I was a little worried about my rook there. Now, I think we just take this. I know it looks pretty risky, but I don't know. We'll say that it works. Takes. It's actually an interesting move. Kind of like it. I respect it. So this is hanging. Now, I'm actually going to have to make a weird decision here. Tough to say. I'm going to actually take here and maybe sack material. Goes here. Let's bring the queen back. And I think it's really key to do this. I know that it opens that up, but I think it's worth it. Let's see if what I'm saying is actually correct. Because if I take on b3, Go to c5. That looks really good. a4 is, I would say a4 is probably the move to play here. His rooks are really tied up here. And although he can bring his queen in, he would then forfeit the f pawn and then the e pawn after that. It starts to get pretty messy. Let's just bring our king up for now. Not actually sure what to do here. In order to get my knight there, I need to be on d3. Let's, I'm seeing shades of a3 that he's intending. His pawn is loose, but okay, we need to make some threats with our h-pawn or else we're not doing anything. Wow, that was really well played. Let's go queen f7. Not taking this, but taking this instead. Questionable by me. Let's make sure to defend that. We got to take here. Got rook a6. I think our king is actually really safe. I know that feels like a weird thing to say, but we'll start with a check. We don't really have knight here. Don't think that's the plan. Let's go check again. Check again. Rook a8. Because rook h2 is not actually mating us. So we can try this. Rook b8 should be the move. I think we're still in a fine spot here. Let's just push this pawn. Rook g8, we go here, and once we get f5, we should be really, really good. Yeah. Now I think we should be okay. Let's pre-move this. If he checks us, we'll up, and now we just push this pawn. Again, he doesn't have any pre-moves that really bother us. So we're going to go here. That covers rook takes f7. Now we can pre-move this. And yeah, just everything is accounted for. It's really hard for him to play with the rook when he doesn't have any pre-moves he can sneak by me. So all his moves are really predictable with the rook. All right, so again, we're going to keep staying within the confines of the Chessable course. We're playing the Jobava London, so d4, knight c3. Now, e5 is actually in the course. This is my opening. e5 is actually in the course. e5 takes, knight here. We'll play knight f3. We'll see if they want to play queen e7, and he doesn't. He actually plays d5. And I'm actually thinking to myself, am I supposed to take this pawn? I don't think so. I think that this is actually mentioned in the course, and the move is bishop f4. So we'll see if we get this right. I think it's e3. Knight here, bishop back. Let's just do it anyway. Goes knight there. I'll bring the bishop back. Now I think we want to counterattack this pawn with knight c3. Plus, we also have bishop b5 to pin the knight. I'm assuming he's going to play bishop here to try to take my pawn. But no, he starts with h5. Not a bad move at all. I mean, h4 is a reasonable idea. But my move h3 is dual purpose. It saves my bishop, and it stops bishop to g4. So now we'll play knight c3, counterattack, looking to take his pawn. Yes, you can have it back, but not without me getting your d pawn. So now he's actually in big trouble. Bishop here, we play knight there. Queen b4. Oof, queen b4, he's really got me thinking. There's a way that you can corral your opponent's pieces in a really nice way. Most people aren't really familiar with this method of trapping a piece, but after a3, first of all, knight takes d5 is probably a decent move here, but really good pattern to know is a3, queen b2, and knight a4. And amazingly, as you start to count the squares that the queen has available, everything is covered. It's just kind of a funny way to trap the queen, so it's a good one to keep in mind. A lot of people miss this. They're just expecting rook b1 or like another way to attack the queen, but no one is thinking about this knight a4 move. And it only works if you have your pawn on a3, because the a3 pawn takes the b4 square, and he's going to resign. We got to win really quickly with a nice, easy trap and a pretty easy opening, which did not pan out for him at all. And we'll see if it's in the course. Okay, d takes e5. Yeah, knight c6, knight f3. d5 is actually there. Now, let's see if I played it correctly, because bishop f4. we have to see what... Okay, so f6, bishop g4, and knight g7 is given. After knight g7, e3 is the move given. I think that's what we played as well. Knight g6, bishop g3, and I think he ends the variation here in the chessable course saying like, okay, white's just much better, like knight c3, and what are we worried about? And that's exactly what happened in my game. So I learned that line. So I was just double checking it there, but I've already learned it. Knight there, bishop g3. Okay, took that line right out of the course. The evaluation, as you can see, is already like 1.5. It's already a ridiculously good position for white. Only getting better the more the computer thinks about it. And once we played h3, I think our position is overwhelming now, because now there's not even bishop g4 to speak of. This pawn is protected, and knight c3 is going to happen. So that's how we've been studying. Timex bound. Thanks for the bits. Appreciate the 500 bits. All right, we're against Mega Shark. It's a shame that I didn't get the black pieces here because he's got that flare, and oh, I actually thought that was a Levy flare. Is that a Hickey flare? Ah, damn, can't really see. They look very similar. All right, I think this is a Hikaru flare, so we gotta be on our game here. A6. I think it's E3. We're gonna try to remember what to play here. Bishop F5. Now I think we're playing F3. How do I get the feeling it's not F3? It's been a while since I've played this. For some reason, F3 feels a little bit off. I'm going to play F3 anyway. For some reason, the move feels a little bit wrong. Like, I guess C5 we take, but don't know that I love that move. All right. I mean, this we definitely know how to handle, but something about the move F3 didn't feel quite right there. Wouldn't be surprised if that was not the correct move. And we see the move C5 thrown out by black, and this is exactly why I felt a little bit weird about this F3 move. So, I mean, it's definitely not a good moment to do this, but generally, for him to be able to play C5 like this is for sure an accomplishment. Okay, Queen D3, I think makes sense. Yeah, and he's going to go there, so I guess time to castle and kind of get our piece up. Maybe knight h3, g5. He can play c4, definitely. Do we want to go here? b5, b4 is coming. I think we're just going to have to like hide our knight on b1 and play like this. So this is actually okay. c3. That's a really... I'm going to call it a good move. I think it's a high energy, good move. I'm going to take it, and I'm going to have to be very, very direct here with my own attack. So I'll call it a good move. I love that move by him. I'm going to totally abandon that side of the board, by the way. So that's the plan. We're going here. Like, forget about my king. He goes there. I think that might be the wrong idea. So I'm happy to run my king anyway. You don't want to take, so he's definitely not going to do that. Yeah, so let's make sure to open the G file. Let's gain a tempo here. I think rook here, and we have queen d3, which is a great multi-purpose move. It attacks, but it also defends. He has to play knight e7 or rook g8. I mean, these are only moves, I feel like. So if he moves the knight, I will play this. But for the moment, I'm going to start by knight takes, bring the rook, hit the pawn. He has to play b5. I'm going to play a weird-looking move, rook b4. And I'm playing this move so that he can't bring his queen back. So I'm hoping that he doesn't. He does. That's a great move by him. He's not allowing me to get the pressure that I'd like against g6. We're still going to manage by swinging our rook over like this. So obviously the threat is rook takes pawn. It's this kind of undeniable pressure. Yeah, queen takes. I think we'll start with the queen. And do we want to bring that? I think this one is like, this is pretty dang simple. You know, you can't move the knight now. This should take care of things. Okay, I'm gonna play rook g6. This could end up being a bit of a soft move, but play. Okay, well, he's gonna do that. Don't think we're too concerned. Definitely a big blunder there. Good game. Good game to Mega Shark 2014. Because I feel like I misremembered something here. So let's have a look. D4, D5, knight C3, knight F6, bishop F4, and now after bishop F4, A6 makes sense. And here, isn't this kind of remarkable? Bishop F5 is not actually here. So let's say bishop here first, E3, there we go. Now we find A6. And I think this is important because after A6, notice how I immediately felt that something was wrong. I played F3, but I knew that wasn't correct. This is the one variation where you don't play F3, and I knew that it was wrong. This verifies it. It's because black can play E6 and C5 and knight C6, and you saw what happened in the game. Like super aggressive play by black, and it all worked really well. So I actually have to play knight F3 here. That's important to remember. Knight F3 with the idea of knight E5 and then G4. So this will be very key to remember. Let's say E6, knight E5. Black goes like bishop B4, we go G4. Bishop G6, I'm assuming H4. But no, bishop G2. It's an interesting move. I wonder why. I would play H4 here. I wonder why H4 is wrong. Must be something with knight E4. Knight E4 must be a huge issue. Otherwise, there's no way bishop G2 would be necessary. Okay, D4. Speaking of the Jobava London, let's play our starting moves for the whole opening. And I'm just going to go out and say it. I don't think we've seen this one before. I'm just going to gain space in the center. I can't really take any of these moves seriously. I'm just going to continue to gain space here. I mean, sure. He's probably in trouble here. So takes queen d4. His only move there is actually f5. I'm just going to go out on a limb and say I don't think he can survive here. F3 is also a reasonable move, but he can go all the way back to A6. I know it's really bad, but still, I don't think he loses a knight. Whereas this way, I think he loses a knight. Because now the knight can't go here. He's forced to do this. We're not going to take en passant. That's what he wants. But instead, we're just going to continue to win the piece. So F5, F3. And I think the last move we need to be careful of is, like, maybe he plays C5. I don't think it does anything, but he might just throw it out there. Otherwise, I think the knight is trapped, right? It has 0 available squares. This move, however, doesn't do anything. If I move my queen literally like back here, the knight's trapped. But if I take it, I also think the knight is trapped. So should I just take it? What's better? You know, I can literally move my queen wherever I want. I think it's easiest to just take it. This knight still has nowhere to go. And queen a5 doesn't really help things out either, because I just attack the queen and he's got all the same problems. Okay, pawn to d5. Again, if I take, the knight can escape, so we're not that interested in that. Before taking this knight, I feel like quite compelled to play the move pawn takes b7. Looks really important. Bishop b5 is another move, but there is queen a5 check. So I'm kind of holding off. But yeah, some combination of those moves looks pretty good. Let's take this. We'll make sure to take this knight as well. Don't imagine he's going to take this way. And now if I check him here, he's going to run with the king. I imagine getting the king just out in the open is the way to go. I could do this, which looks really good, but I'm kind of drawn to these moves, I have to admit. Those look like the tempting ones. All right, I'm going to cave and go here. I think that bishop b5, unfortunately, I don't know, I was just bothered by the move queen a5, having to deal with that. All of it looks really good. Whether I force the king to move immediately or if I start with this, I think he's in trouble no matter what. Okay, let's start with a check. We want to displace the king. And probably it's time to just focus on our own development, castling. Bishop f4 is going to be with the tempo. Queen c2 is just lunacy, as they say. And it's there. I'm going to play, I think, let's go c4. Maybe we can pre-move this. Think that he's going to play g6. We'll roll the dice because this looks really likely. Then we can take it and set up this great little checkmate here. So there we go. We baited him in, exactly what we wanted him to do. I knew that he was going to play g6, and bishop g7 looked very, very likely. And castling, you'd never think is actually making a checkmate threat. But I was setting that all up so that bishop g7 would walk right into it. Okay, e4. Well, we're going to play our e5, knight c6, and c3. So, always hard to remember all these different openings, but I think we start with knight f6. Then we take, and... Okay, wait a minute. Hold on just a second here. I'm confused now. Because d5 is the move I'm used to. So if I play bishop c5, is queen d5 a very strong move? I know it looks like I can take this, but I'm actually feeling a little nervous about playing bishop c5 here. Queen d5 feels strong. Wow. I actually don't know what to do here. Because if I take on f2, I don't know, it looks suspicious. Maybe I can get away with it with f5, but I don't know. I don't know. I'm a little scared, to be honest. This move looks good. I'm going to play the safe bet. I'm going to play d5. Because I don't want to deal with that. That doesn't look fun. Let's castle. Yeah, I'm fine with this. Sign me up for this stuff. Ooh, queen there. Okay, well, hang on a sec. Bishop f5 has to be strong. And bishop d3, so you're opening up the e file now. Gotta be some problems with this. Gotta be some problems with this. Oof. Tough to say. I mean, rook here, it may just be like a rook e8 kind of move. It really feels like we should be doing better than that, though. Let's play bishop c5. So if he takes, we have that rook e8 idea. And here, I mean, I was hoping that we could play this move. Does this not do anything good? It's amazing. It might just be a draw. Yeah, I don't really see anything after this. Maybe a draw is the best result that we could hope for here. Oh, wow. Okay, he takes. That's a mistake for sure. Do we want to take this with the queen? I think so. Because he can't avoid losing material. But I do think bishop takes f5. Based on how much time I had, I probably would have taken a draw there. I think it's a fair result. So he goes here. It's only going to serve to lose him material on top of already losing material. So yeah, we don't need to win it just yet. I will need to take it, but I don't think I need to do it this moment. So we'll take and then b5, b4. Displace the knight and get the light squares. I also really want to spend time on a move like that. Let's play c4. Probably should have done this. We'll take now because we can take this. And we might set up the move bishop to e2. We'll see where he puts the knight. Knight c3, bishop e2 anyway. This is a check. Just give a check here so that we can pre-move and hopefully anticipate. Let's get our king a little breathing room. I'd love to trade this knight off. Man, that move's annoying. Okay, let's try this. It's a fairly safe pre-move. I'd love to sack the rook. Here we go. Even though I'm going to lose a lot of material here, this is definitely the way to do it. Finally, my position becomes pre-movable. Because I've got my rook on a light square. We'll just hover rook h3. Okay, we can pre-move this now. We'll hover king h3. Okay, and he doesn't do it. Now we have g3 hanging, but we're not going to pre-move take it just yet. I'm going to run this pawn, and eventually I will be able to take it. Yeah, so now I can take it. I'm going to definitely pre-move my rook immediately to a light square. Let's get our rook the heck out of there. Now we could try to take this. And we should probably have just enough time. There we go. GG. Good pattern to know at the end. Whenever you're checkmating a king in the corner with two pawns, you'll always be able to bring your queen here, and it'll always force a checkmate in the minimum amount of moves. The least amount of moves possible. So that'll work every time. So remember, he played c3, knight f6, d4, knight takes e4, and actually d takes e5. So bishop c5 is still the move, but I'm still happy with the move that I played because I haven't studied this line and I would have no clue what to do. So let me jump into this and figure out exactly what line he wants because, man, I would not feel comfortable doing that. Let's see. Okay, so takes bishop c5. The only line to be considered here should be queen d5. That's right. Bishop takes king d1. I would have expected king e2, actually. But the move is f5, intending knight e7. Okay. Well, this is the line that I needed to have studied this before playing this. There's no way I would feel confident doing this, right? Because bishop c4, I mean, this looks insane, right? There's no way I feel good here. Unless I have somebody backing me up here. This does not feel right. Knight d2 and knight e7. And we play d5 with a healthy extra pawn. We're against Noah. e4. All right. I have to mentally prepare myself, but here I am, ready to play e5. We've got our setup here. Is he going to hit us with knight g5? No. Goes for the slow approach. And here comes the shakiest line in my entire repertoire. Now, I actually wonder, am I supposed to play this move after knight c3? Maybe I am, but somehow I have my doubts. I feel like, I don't know. I just feel like the way that we've played here, I don't actually need to do it. So I'm not sure I've ever seen the move knight c3 before. I'm definitely going to be excited to check after the game. I'm just going to go bishop b4 and play for d6, and yeah, basically nothing special. So we'll see. We'll see if it makes sense. Yeah, knight d5, of course. We'll take. He's going to take back. I guess we'll sort of nudge this knight. It's a little uncomfortable if, don't really want to move the knight back. But I was going to say, I don't think you want to allow this. My opponent says, man, to hell with you. You don't know nothing. Now, knight d4 looks pretty nice, taking advantage of this pin. But knight takes, knight f5. That's not what the people want. So how are we supposed to play this? I guess we take, but what next? I don't really love this position. Let's bring the knight in. What else? Got to get ready for maybe c6, b5. Knight takes. Of course, we have queen takes. You should really do this. No doubt about it. Yeah, probably this one, honestly. If we take here, it'll be more or less the same because he takes. We want to play this move anyway. Useful. Okay. Queen here or queen here. I think they do almost the exact same thing. I'm going to choose this one. Okay, if he takes, we don't even need to discuss. Pack it up, boys. Another win. Don't even need to discuss. Another dub here. I mean, he's making it easy with 92, but this was going to be a massacre. Bishop, totally useless. Dark squares, all under my control. Okay, the fact that we get to take here, even better. Let's play f6 and just be completely solid. That pawn is loose. Most important move, do not let that bishop get in here. Now he's dead. Rook h3, rook h8, rook h2. Bye-bye. Now, he's not going to want to trade rooks, but we really, really do. Okay. Could take in either direction. I'm going to take this way. And let's push a few pawns over here. Okay, we want to go here. Let's first bring this rook over. He goes here, which I think is a really bad move. Bishop takes, allows a4, and now the game is basically over. So he wants to play this move after a2. We're going to go here, and he is going to be upset. GG to Noah. So I'm curious. Is it going to be what we did? Or are we supposed to stick? So knight c3 is actually not given as a move, which is interesting. I wonder if there's a... So knight c3 is given here, but then knight takes e4. So I'm not sure how I'm supposed to interpret this. Probably that knight c3 is just not dangerous. And I do believe that I read it correctly. So he played knight c3. It's not a top move at all. But, okay, wow. It really likes our move, bishop b4. That's kind of reassuring. All right, we're against Percy. d4. We don't see d4 too much. And are we finally going to get a Budapest? I mean, surely he takes. All right, yay. It's been ages since we've gotten this opening. It's like the toughest thing. I don't know what it is, but for some reason, so tough to get this opening. All right, f4. I think bishop c5. Now I'm even pausing, so I'm like, wait a minute. Is it bishop c5? I feel like it could just be d6. d6 looks pretty good. h3 can't be played. d6 looks pretty damn good. Bishop c5, e3. Are we actually happy with this? Because otherwise, bishop c5 would be overpowered, right? Then this would just be super strong. So I'm actually curious. Both moves to me look really good here. I know that I can't go wrong, so not worried about that. But I am definitely trying to play the moves that are in the course. So I'm going to play d6. I think this looks fine to me. Yeah, h3. I had a feeling he was going to do that, but queen h4 comes, and I mean, you're already crying. And the Budapest just takes another name here. I think we might see, yeah, knight f2. So we'll hit these two pieces. Now, he might get real crafty with this. No, he doesn't. Ooh, queen a4. What's he doing here? What's he doing? Queen's attack. He's going to have to come up with some kind of knight f3 business. I don't know what it is. Knight f3, knight e4, though. Okay, he goes back. Queen here, bishop here. There is queen c8, which, to be honest with you, is kind of annoying. Honestly, I'm a little bit interested in knight e4 here. Just looks like fun, and if something looks like fun, it's kind of hard to say no. It's kind of hard to say no. So do we start with this or do we do this? Maybe let's start with knight c6 because we're still hitting the rook. Okay, goes for this. I feel like now we're kind of suckered into a move like this. It's not our favorite, but okay. Well, again, we're roped in here. Like, we have to do it. You know, if we die, we die. It looks like we're dying, but we're all in. All right, how can we do this thing? How can we make what I would call a meaningful threat? Even pawn takes looks pretty good here. Now, pawn takes doesn't look bad. We want to make sure we have answers to stuff like this. g6, king back. I'm not sure we're doing anything there. I kind of like pawn to d5 check. Looks like a bit of a weird move here. I could be digging the hole, like even deeper. Okay. These are the moves I'd like to play. Maybe we start with this. I guess this makes it a little easy. Could just go back, but I'm trying to... I guess I'm trying to goad my opponent into this position. I feel like it's kind of what I want, but at the same time, a little risky. He goes for a great move there, knight e5, but I was hoping that rook e5 was the answer that I needed, because now with my queen guarding that square, I am actually able to uncork a nice little checkmate in the center of the board. So I'm just trying to make it as complicated as possible for the white king there. Don't think it was forced, but I do think that more often than not, it'll be easier and way more fun to find the attacking moves than the defensive moves there. And I was interested in a good time. I think I got it. d4. Okay, knight c3. e6. So we're going to stay in Rubava London territory, even though e4 is quite a reasonable idea. After b6, though, do I have better than e4? I feel like at this point, it's like, okay, you really don't want to take the center? It's like, what am I supposed to do? I got to take it. You can't give me the center that many times and expect me not to take it. It just doesn't make sense. It goes here. We can push, but it allows this. I feel like this move is not going to be included in the course, so I'm not terribly worried about it. As for this, he's actually threatening the e-pawn, so let's go and defend that. Bishop b7, he'll be threatening the e-pawn again, so we're going to have to defend that. And I got to admit, my bishop on f4 is not well placed. It's kind of bothering me. So I might have to workshop this particular line. I'm not loving not loving the way my pieces are placed. This bishop basically should not be there. Like, I'd almost prefer if it was back on c1. Okay, at f3, I'll do it. And he goes d6. Well, castle. I want to play e5. I don't want him to play e5. He takes. He goes there. And I feel like this is the moment that we need to play this move just before he does it. So he goes here. Most important thing to calculate will be bishop takes h7 here. I do not think it works because at the bare minimum after this and this, black can play knight f6 twice. And isn't that just good? Doesn't that cover things? Let's have a look here. Also, king g6, queen g4, what happens? Yes, knight e6 is a pretty huge threat. You know what? It does look like it could be interesting, and maybe in the worst case, we play queen h5, take the knight, go back to h4. Be okay. Okay, if I go knight to g5 here, then my opponent can go knight takes f4. That seems quite suspicious. So I'm actually just going to retreat this. I suppose I could go here as well, but I'm going to go here and say, if you take me, well, isn't it just the exact same problem as a move ago? Okay, so he's wise to that and plays this move. I'm going to have to continue with knight g5. Only move that's reasonable. He takes here. I got my work cut out for me. I really do. I guess we take it back. So if king g7, I think I'm planning to take here. He goes and makes a move that I would consider to be kind of bad. Let's go queen here. I'd like to play queen h4. Knight f6. Maybe we can take, but I'm thinking queen h4 all the time. If he goes king g7, it might not make a lot of sense, but I think knight e6 is definitely a playable move there. Ooh, so what's the sauce here? Because I can take here. I think we're gonna have to go for the more forcing continuation. Queen takes and then queen h6. That'll be my only attempt. Not gonna pre-move it because he could definitely take here. So we'll try it. Again, I don't think it really works, but I was a little short on time. I think we can still make something of this. We'll check, and we'll take here, and we'll try our best to make this work. Okay, he's gonna cave, and yes, we go here. This one, we just take it. Knight there is tricky for sure. Yeah, we can just grab that. So that's a big help. Okay, this is helpful again. Queen here, I've got this threat. Let's give a check. Now he doesn't have this move, and he's kind of falling apart here at the end. Yeah. Actually pre-move this. That'll probably be the easiest. And he's gonna resign that one. I think that's smart. You know, it's just, I get so much satisfaction because everyone wants to play on, everyone wants to play till mate. And then as soon as you start pre-moving properly, they're like, so bishop f4, bishop b4 is the only move given. So now outside of the course, we're going to have a look at b6. e4 is the only real suggestion. But my problem is that after bishop b4, feel like black kind of has a lot of achievements here. And so I need to be very specific and follow some of the engine recommendations here, because bishop b4, if I play bishop d3, I'm getting into the b6 line, which is not a good version. I have my bishop on f4. It's terrible here. So I need to follow this top engine line because e5 is very specific to this position. Knight d5 feels, well, I mean, it is good, but it feels like so strong because it hits the bishop. We play bishop to d2. Now you're kind of forced to take. If knight takes, I imagine we take with the bishop and force this guy back. Our queen can come out to g4. If bishop takes, probably also with the pawn, we can evict that knight. Queen g4, bishop d3. This looks fantastic. So I'm going to remember this. e4 with the idea of just playing e5. And the same thing happens with bishop here. We play e5 again. And let's say if knight d5, I imagine, yes, we want to go for all this stuff. Right? And let's just displace the bishop first. Because now he can't really play knight here without bringing the bishop back. So he has to waste more time playing bishop back to b7. All right, we got white again. And that means we're going back for this. Bishop f4. e6. Okay, so this one we go immediately with knight b5. Knight a6, e3. c6 will bring back our knight. And bishop d6. I actually don't think that we've seen this one. Not mistaken. Now we can take, I don't think we need to. I might start with knight here. Is that crazy? Like, I feel like, of course, the plan is that we want to take. But let me go here. I don't mind these double pawns. Yes, bishop takes a6. So when the queen goes here to attack the pawn, this is why I was mentioning that idea of knight a4, because so many people, and this is a perfect illustration, so many people just don't understand that this move traps their queen. I mentioned this earlier in the series, and it's like the pieces all cover the retreat squares. It's such a classic way to trap people's queen and win the game. They only ever expect rook b1, and they're like, duh, I'm attacking your knight. And he resigns immediately. Like, this way to trap the queen, everyone seems to fall into. I'm not sure what it is about it, but it just looks like such a unassuming move. a3, like, oh, this guy blundered. All right. It's going to be e4, so we'll respond with e5, knight c6, bishop b5. Okay, so we get a taste of the Ruy Lopez here. And a6, it's going to be an exchange. I really haven't seen the main line of the Ruy Lopez too much. So I believe our variation is with queen f6. d4, we just take that. Queen f6, I think the idea is bishop g4. So yeah, d4, we're going to take it. Bishop g5, we'll have to move our queen again. Queen d4, we're happy to take. So a good move from our opponent as well. I'm pretty sure queen d6 is the move. And queen d4, happy to take. Pretty sure knight d4 is the main idea. Okay, so he goes e5. That move makes a lot of sense as well. Like, makes sense in the sense that you want to hit the queen and keep gaining time. But I will say, I think that black is fairly comfortable with the outcome here. But you know, I just noticed like some kind of insane tactic. So knight takes here. I was going to play c5. And then it just occurred to me, knight b5 can be played. How insane is that tactic? You think that after queen takes, white plays knight c7, but that doesn't work. No, after knight b5, queen take, you just take back, and there's rook d8 mate along with knight c7. So maybe queen d7 instead of queen d5 was actually better. I'm not sure. In either case, he played queen here. We're much happier to see that. We're going to take it. Let's definitely start by just asking the bishop, you know, what do you want to do, sir? He's going to go back there. c5 is a great move for us in pretty much every variation, so I'm happy to play it. I know this looks like a weird move, but I'm so tempted by g5. Basically, I'd love to keep my bishop pair, and bishop e7 offering a trade is not really it. So why don't we start with bishop e6, square that's definitely going to be good for our bishop. This knight probably going to make it to the e4 square. I'd love to castle. So let's go knight e7. I don't want to give him my bishop. I'd love to keep that. Knight e4 makes a threat, but we can respond with knight f5 to guard the pawn and get rid of his bishop. So I think this is a good situation for us. Could have also played b6, but I think defending by moving the knight just makes more sense. And yes, we can take, but no need to rush. Let's castle before he brings a rook there. Notice the h6 pawn is doing the Lord's work here. Stopping knight to g5. Super important. And do not rush knight takes bishop. You can do that whenever you want, right? If he wants to waste time going bishop g5, bishop h4, bishop g3, bishop f4, like, let him do it. Let him do it. I'm, meanwhile, making moves that I think are helping my position, so I'm not in a particular rush. Now, I know it looks greedy, but let's absolutely take this pawn. That pawn, you cannot trap my bishop. I'm just going to go right back here, offer rook trade. It's a fantastic position for me. Okay, it goes here. Don't really see any reason not to do this. At this point, we might be getting close to an endgame, so start to think about maybe other ideas, but let's keep it simple. Let's trade. We got the two bishops. Like, it really just can't be bad. Bishop to d5 next. Will re-centralize my piece, gain time attacking the knight. All fantastic things. So he brings the knight back. Now g5, hitting the bishop. Ooh, he goes here. I think we can cause him some problems now. So let's start with this one. The pawn's protected. So h4 is about to trap the bishop. He needs to move this pawn. But when he does, well, there'll always be knight takes bishop for one. And I think let's do that. That pawn becomes stranded. So now let's bring this king in. Yeah, let's save the bishop. I know it looks logical to go here, but I was thinking, let's stop knight e4 instead. That looks more important. Okay, he's attacking this. I can definitely go here, but let's make what I consider to be the best move. Stop every single idea that he could possibly have on that square. Let's go g4. Kick his knight away. Kick his king away. Take that pawn. Centralize our bishop on e4. Now this is a really easy win. We bring our bishop here. And notice how that knight has 0 squares. And notice how I just gave it one with the move f5. Notice that. f4, and we'll take this, and we'll win this knight. Hopefully he goes king a4. Be a nice little mate there. There we go. I had a feeling he was going to go for it. That's why I didn't want to pre-move. That's why I didn't want to pre-move. Because that looked pretty sketchy. That queen d5 move. I'm assuming it's probably okay. Takes, castles, queen f6, d4, takes, bishop g5, queen d6. And actually, the move e5 is not given, and not given for a good reason. If you look at e5, it relinquishes a ton of white's advantage. It's not where the pawn wants to be in this opening. And black, makes significant progress here. Apparently, queen b4 is a pretty strong move, but I'm kind of liking queen g6. I agree with the engine here. I know that sounds like an obvious thing to say, but I actually do not agree with the chess.com engine very much. So this looks frightening, though. There's bishop h3 coming. Yes, you can threaten checkmate, but after I play bishop e7, feels like you gotta take it. You could play bishop f4, but I don't feel like that's good enough. Maybe knight h6. e4, it's got to be e4, e5 to get us to 1900. And will it be? Oh, wow. Another castle. Okay. I guess knight e4, right? And we've looked at this. So it's funny. Someone else played this exact same thing, and it was basically a mistake. Bishop b5 is the only move that makes sense to me. And then we'll play bishop c5, and I feel like we're going to be cruising here. Why cruising? Not only am I up a pawn and happy with it, but remember, I analyzed this with an engine after that game, so I can kind of remember what we just looked at, and I'm feeling pretty good about it. d4, remember? We already saw this. Takes. Remember knight takes d4? We already saw it. Castle. Right? This gives me the confidence to hang this pawn because I know that black has a massive advantage here. Okay, he decides to take with the bishop. Don't really think that matters. Let's take here. Bishop e3. So perhaps queen f6 right now, but let's remember that the move f3 is most likely happening next. In a lot of cases, we can take and play c5, by the way. So that's not out of the question. Well, I think what I might do is just play bishop d7. The other move I'm looking at is this, f3, knight g5. I think I'll just go here. Looks tempting to play this and maybe go for some tactic on the bishop, but I don't think it works. Because when you take here, I can always take this bishop with a check, and it will always be check if that pawn's not there on f2. So he goes c4. If he takes, believe me, I'm happy to just take back. In terms of the position, yeah, this looks really hard to turn down. Let's bring a rook here. That looks like it's going to be extremely useful. Whenever he plays f3 to boot my knight out, I'll move it, and I'll have a really big threat with the rook e3 and bishop c5 combo. He goes queen c2. Again, he's trying to manifest something on this bishop, but my feeling is that after queen f6, he just doesn't have time. I'm the one that's making all the significant threats here. I've got the rook hitting his rook. His knight's attacked. He doesn't have time to develop his knight. I think there's going to be some back rank issues here. I spy tactics. I don't know how he's not going to fall for some tactic here. Like literally, I'm assuming I could play like anything takes f2 and it'll just work next. So knight f3, he nearly had to play it. He really did. I still don't think he's going to survive here. Let's play d4. So we'll hit the bishop, and when it moves, which doesn't have a great square to move to, we'll play d3 next and hit the f2 pawn. I think d4 and d3 is just lights out here. He's not developed. He doesn't have an escape square. I'm fully developed with 2 bishops and an extra pawn. This guy's in trouble. Okay, he takes. It's a pretty good move. Gonna take back. He goes rook takes e4. Honestly speaking, being totally transparent, this isn't something I calculated. It's not something I needed to have calculated, but still, just explaining that I'm so far ahead here that I don't need to be fully transparent with like calculating every single line. I mean, b2 is hanging here. He's going to lose a whole rook in the corner. So there are lots and lots of ways to win this position. I could take here first, but what I think I'm going to do is take here. Then I'm going to bring my other rook to e8. Actually, this is a little cheesy. Rook e8, queen d3, bishop here. I do lose this bishop, so I get punished for trying to be too fancy. I was trying to go rook e8, maybe queen d4 and get a mate, but we should just be smart. Take the material and just bring our bishop out. Bishop c3. It actually wasn't even attacked, so we didn't need to do that. Now this bishop's hit, but we can do this. And when he moves his queen or something, we'll just go bishop g4. So now rook e1 will be a massive threat. I think knight e4 is the only move worth playing for him. Fortunately for me, well, I have a lot of moves I can play, but queen g6, queen f5, all look tremendous. He goes knight back. It's a pretty decent attempt, to be honest. Let's go check, and we'll follow up with rook e1. It's a safe pre-move because it'll only be playable if he moves his knight. All right, good game, good game. Made it to 1900. There we go. Feels pretty good. There's nothing for me to really look at in my chessable course here. If we remember, this game, my opponent just hung the pawn. But I will say that's why it's helpful to review your games right after you play them. Because remember, I had someone just a little bit ago play the exact same way. And I ended up winning the game easily because this is just a blunder. But after I took, they played this, I played this. And after the game, even though I crushed him and I won easily, I still made sure to review the game. And I was like, okay, let me just check because bishop b5 looks normal. What am I supposed to play here? And I'm glad I did because then we were able to look at that line. Bishop c5, d4. And what do you know? That exact line happened in this game. So analyzing my game from a little bit ago set me up for easy success here. We're up a pawn, bishop pair, and we crushed him again. You made it to the end of yet another episode. I hope that this was really informative, letting you guys know how to study chess, how to improve at it, and how to use Chessable as a tool to help do so. At the end of the day, I think it's one of the best ways that you can learn openings, and I think that this series is a pretty good example of that. So if you liked those courses that I was working through, or if you wanted to pick up different ones more specific to your repertoire, make sure to use chessable.com/chessbrah if you're going to upgrade to a pro membership. That's all from me, and we'll see you in the next episode.